Hi, it's Dwyer. It is May 4th, 2023. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. Money1776.com, a free site. Remember, nothing I say in this video should be construed as investment advice. Right? I want you to do your own due diligence. The opinion you should follow should be your own after you do your due diligence. Just consider this to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, Apple, a company I've owned at different times in the past, shares, right? Apple's going to announce its numbers later today. Because of the state of the economy, I'm expecting Apple, which has a very high multiple, price earnings multiple, to disappoint. I believe there's an easy opportunity here to make some money by buying a put option. But just understand, options are extremely risky. You need to know what you're doing. Also understand, too, that there are many financial commentators out there who are bullish on Apple. My concern is simply the multiple. It's the fact that, according to reports, Apple's going to announce stock buybacks, which I almost always find to be questionable. Apple's trying to get into the finance market. I'm just wondering what they're going to offer that treasurydirect.gov doesn't already offer. Right? If I can borrow money and have the debtor be the United States government, why do I need a middleman who's going to compound counterparty risk? Right? A middleman who, could go bankrupt, could have its stock swoon, could have a lot go wrong. Right? Well, let's just say, with regard to Apple, I'm expecting their numbers to not quite satisfy the market. We'll know in a few hours. I'm expecting the stock over time, sometimes it doesn't happen right away, to take a hit. You understand, if you are a put option holder, that could be great for you. Right? I'm not talking, well, let's just say I'm expecting Apple to disappoint. Let's talk about the macro view. I think it's important for investors to have a macro view. I believe there's a lot of misinformation out there. I believe the government approach is to tell the public, don't worry, be happy. Right? The debt ceiling, we'll get that solved, but we don't have any news to report. Right? The 31 trillion in debt, it's okay. We'll kick the can down the road. Right? The myth here is that inflation is linear, that it doesn't come in bursts, that this time we have our, finger on the pulse. We're slowly improving the problem. Anyone who was alive in the 1970s knows that inflation comes in bursts, that Fed Chairman Arthur Burns was unable to get a handle on inflation the entire decade, that inflation is the kind of thing that lingers. Let me also point out, too, that we're going to have a day of reckoning in some areas. Just think about how you're watching this video. Right? You might be home. You might be fresh off a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom or a Google Meet meeting. Right? You understand the power of online meetings. You understand the convenience of not having to hop in your car, drive downtown, pay for parking, go up the elevator, deal with some coworkers who you might want to see, who you might not want to see. Coworkers who you would not voluntarily meet one-on-one online. Right? Go through the meeting, then of course have to undo the process. Right? Find your car again in the parking lot, deal with the traffic of the countless people who are downtown, drive back across town. Right? Just understand, folks, The emergence of online meeting capability has gutted commercial real estate. There are many workers who prefer working from home. That's not going to change anytime soon. Now, you might remember in the 1970s, commercial real estate was gutted in places like Manhattan. Right? Just understand, you had some empty buildings and you had squatters in buildings. You even have movies from that era. Rent, for example, where young kids are squatting in commercial buildings. Right? The shoe is just starting to drop on commercial real estate. Think about pensions. I'm here in California. CalPERS, the Goliath, is underfunded by more than 20%. Would you invest in a pension if they told you 1 in 5 are not going to get paid back? Folks, that's a casino environment. Understand, in some states, Illinois, for example, they're underfunded by more than 30%. The pension shortfall just in the United States is a multi-trillion-dollar shortfall. That shoe has yet to drop. Here we have a presidential election in the United States, and the candidates running for the highest office in the land can't even talk about the pension crisis. If a candidate mentions Social Security, which is going bankrupt, suddenly there's a press backlash, and that candidate, Ron DeSantis, for example, then has to quickly back away from the statements and say, hey, I wasn't trying to endanger anyone's Social Security. Right? So just understand, we're not ready right now to deal with the insolvency that's already here in the system. There's a lot of debt restructuring that's going to have to take place. You know, I believe EVs are a technological breakthrough. Fewer moving parts than internal combustion engines. But let's be real here. Your son or daughter is having a hard time right now buying a used car. Right? Understand, there are people, I'm sure, in your neighborhood or at least in your social circle who have lost their jobs. Maybe they're living on a severance package right now that's going to dissipate in time. Right? You understand that. They aren't going to go out and buy the new Tesla. They aren't going to go out and buy the new Mercedes-Benz EV line. They're not looking to buy the new Lucid Auto with the engine that allows you to travel from the Bay Area to LA on one charge. They're not looking to buy a new car at all, especially since crude oil has dropped in price. Right? If you have an old car that is broken in and you enjoy it, you know the car, you know how it drives, you know how the brakes work and stuff like that. And you also realize that gas is more affordable because market demand has just dropped across the economy. Well, you're going to think to yourself, hey, I'm comfortable. I know where the gas stations are in town. You're not going to run out in these uncertain times and buy an EV. EV adoption is going to go slower than people think. Here in California, they're crazy enough to think they can outlaw internal combustion engine cars in a few years. You and I know that in hard economic times, that's simply not going to happen. So, where do we go with all this? Right? I believe in these uncertain times, you need to consider gold and silver. I believe you need to consider Bitcoin. SEC Chairman Gary Gensler considers Bitcoin to be a commodity, not a security. If you're a little bit more adventurous, you need to consider Ethereum. You need to consider altcoins. Folks, the technology keeps moving forward. Now you have a proof of work altcoin that is lightning fast. It doesn't require the Lightning Network. Right? I'm not going to reveal it here because I have a pay site on Substack, Dwyer70905.substack.com.